Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, where we go around the entire Icon ecosystem and bring you all the latest and greatest news. And with me, as always, is Icongrapher, our co-host. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Good man, good. We just come off a great community sessions. We had, quite a lot of people in there, along with a lot of different members of various PrEP teams. It was great to see. It was a good turnout.
Yeah, we switched. We've been doing these. I guess you more so than I, but I've been doing them on Twitter with some good success. But this time, kind of switched over to Telegram. It seemed nice because there was a lot. I think a lot more people were kind of hovering around Telegram usually, and so it's really easy to just kind of if you're already in the channel, the Ion Icon channel, which if you're not in there, you should be. But when you're in there, it's easy to just kind of click on a button and click join, and it seems more stable also. So I think we had a little bit better participation than we had on some of the Twitter ones. So that was certainly nice to see. And it sounds like we'll probably keep doing it in that way moving forward.
Yeah, look, I think we had some issues. Hideki, for example, he was meant to be in the session, couldn't chat. He kept getting kicked out of the group. I don't know. I'm trying to work through why this was happening, but I may disable some of the bots that are security bots in there just while the future calls are on. But look, we did record it. We will release it later on after the news. We want to make sure we get the news out, obviously, because it's fresh. I think Icongrapher, the first things first, we've broken tradition and we haven't spoken about markets. What's going on in the markets? I haven't looked this
Oh,
morning.
right. Yeah, we're in. I mean, we've been hovering around the 150-ish range, but then we broke it the other day, so that was certainly exciting. Still feels like we're in that two steps forward, one step back pattern. I think there's some people who feel like Bitcoin's losing a little bit of momentum. But I don't know. Again, not the charting type or anything like that. Just kind of passing along what I've seen. Um, but everything's been kind of stable the last couple of days here. I guess it dipped a little bit yesterday, but still in that 150-ish range. So certainly nice to be. Every time we talk, it's like we're kind of 10 cents higher, set a new little step up. So hopefully by the time we're talking next time, we're around 160-ish and then 170-ish, something like that, and just keep moving in that gradual direction as we get closer and closer to BTP and all the other fun stuff that's coming down the pipeline. Not to exclude the fun stuff that we just got, especially as far as Ohm is concerned, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think relative to where we were a couple months ago, things are moving in the right direction market wise.
Yep, agree. Look, a little bit of volatility, but not like insane. It's just ranging. It's good. It's good. Um,
Yeah, it's just on the it's not quite in the boring zone,
yeah,
but it does feel like it's getting there. But that's totally fine.
yeah. Cool. Okay, well, let's jump in. Ohm. We've finally launched. It's finally happened.
Yeah, and it seemed like I didn't really see too many people. There weren't any, bugs or major errors or anything like that I had to see that kind of had to get addressed or corrected. I think with balance, there were a couple little hiccups during their first few hours and first couple of days, nothing major, but again, there were a little bit of issues here and there, which is kind of the expectation for things like this. But it was nice. Really didn't have much. I had I had a very small issue when I was trying to do a transaction, but it got kind of just fixed within 5 minutes. And so very, very smooth, I think. Other people might have had a different experience, but just generally from my experience and what I saw from others, worked pretty well. I think the UI, we've been aware of the UI for a while now. Obviously, as you put together a really helpful video a little while back on the testnet version, just kind of showing how it works. So I think it's pretty easy to figure out pretty quickly. I saw a couple people mention that they felt balanced was a little more intuitive, but I think it's just related to the two types of models of how the platform works just being different. There was some people expressed that it would have been nice to have where it says the risk percentage on when you take out loans to show like a price point of where where your liquidation would occur and things like that. But as we would learn on our community session, which we'll be releasing subsequent to this episode, so if you're listening to this one, there's a chance the community session isn't out yet. They basically said that because there's so many different assets that you can borrow and loan against and collateralize with, that it was hard to incorporate the actual singular price, which makes sense. So that's why there's that percentage sign. So it little things like that. I think people they gotten very used to the balance experience, and we'll have to kind of adjust and recognize that this is a different platform with different, I won't say rules, but certainly different structure. And so that'll be people will certainly adjust and get really familiar with it really quick. I think borrowing or supplying collateral went really easy. Borrowing was really easy. And I think what everyone's I think in as we record now, we're about 4.5 hours away from the ohm accumulation period starting. So the distribution won't start until the 31st. But the actual, if you use the platform, you'll start being rewarded for it in about 4.5 hours from when we're recording now. So by the time you're listening, it'll probably be live. And I think, when people, something that I've noticed is people, like when they first got on, they saw, 0.01%, 0.04% APY. And they remember when they first started balanced it was like 18,000 or whatever, something crazy. It's obviously nowhere near that now. Now it's, depending on what you're doing, it's in the, the 40 to 50 to maybe 90% range. I think that's the highest it goes. So we don't have an APY yet beyond just what you're earning on the interest or paying on the interest. And when the ohm tokens go live, they still won't show the APY. You'll see how many ohm tokens you're getting, but because there are no ohm pools live yet, because there's no ohm token yet, there will not be an ohm price. So you can't calculate what the yield is in terms of dollar values without knowing what the price of the asset that is being rewarded is. So I know there will probably be some questions about that when people log on. They say, hey, I'm getting my ohm, but it still doesn't. It only shows 0.02% or whatever it is. Obviously, that's on the ICX side of things. The percentages on the stable coins are much higher. In particular, USDS, I believe, which is what are you able to see what it's at now, Fez?
The total. So we've got
the APY on the borrow.
I've got it. Yep. So on USDS we've got 76 to supply. So you would earn 76% interest on what you supply.
Oh wow!
And if you went to borrow, it's at 96% at the moment. And that's without the rewards.
Yeah, so definitely better to be a supplier than a borrower in that situation. It's one of those things where there's not a whole lot of USDS floating around necessarily, and so that's why it's a bit more of a tighter market. Obviously, there's plenty of SICX floating around there, so plenty of people are able to supply it and borrow it, whereas it's a much more rare asset thus far, just because people are still in the process of trying out Bridge, minting it, all that other good stuff. So that'll be interesting to watch play out as we get more and more into the system. And of course, by the time the OMM rewards come out, we'll also start getting the various pools as far as the OMM/SICX pool, as well as 2 pools for the 2 stable coins as well. I think those will be interesting because theoretically they should be the same price. If one stable coin, if OM is valued at $1.50 on one stable coin, it should be valued the same on the other. And so if the pools are out of line, there's profit to be made if people are able to hop between them. So that'll be good for transactions and just having multiple opportunities to sell different things. And so it's kind of exciting because it starts as a very basic product, but it adds a lot of features very quickly. As far as those pools and things are concerned, they're also going to be pretty quickly at implementing the feature where you can utilize your ohm holdings to decide which PREPs the pool funds go toward, which is certainly nice, something that is being planned for balanced as well. And there will be also pools in balanced for the assets that are being generated on ohm. So we got the launch of one, obviously a complete birth, but that process has stimulated kind of a new phase of growth for balance in terms of the different assets and different ways to earn yield on that platform. So it's a nice little synergy between the two, and the teams. They've worked closely together just to make sure that as one platform does well, the other one also does well, and vice versa. And so that's how a DeFi ecosystem really starts to grow.
Yep. Look, I think I've got it on screen and I've been clicking, and I thought in my tutorial and stuff I didn't really cover this, and some basics that I've really seen people ask around is when you focus on ICX icon, for example, ICX I should say, you've got very low supply and borrowing percentages, right? Now, something to keep in mind is this is paid on top of your staking rewards, okay? So we know when you put ICX in, it converts it to SICX, and whatever SICX you hold, say it's 1,000, every day it grows in value. You don't see that number growing. However, the interest that you earn on OHM, on top of the staking rewards, will actually add to your SICX. So there's a bit of a difference there, something to keep in mind. So this is on top of the staking rewards, which is fantastic. Stably, I'm looking at that now. Yes, keep in mind, the reason why this percentage is so high is you can see that there are more people wanting to borrow USDS, and that's how this percentage fluctuates, right? When you supply, if there was like 100 million stably USDS and only someone borrowing $1, there would literally be no interest being paid to all the people who supplied because there's no demand. But that's where it comes from. It's not new money that's being minted to pay for the interest. It's just from the borrowers. They're paying to borrow essentially.
And there's a spread there between, I think you said, what was it, 75 versus 95, something like that. So there's a 20% spread there, and that is actually one of the ways that the platform generates revenue internally. Just how there's transaction fees and things like that unbalanced. One of the ways that OHM generates revenue is by taking that difference between the two and utilizing it for the platform. There's no mechanism formally to redistribute platform revenue to token holders at this point in time. But I think similar to Balance, something like that will likely be implemented in the future. I don't think they've formally said anything like that, but I think I would be surprised if that's not eventually what happens. I don't know what the timeline would be on that necessarily. But, obviously, if you're a token holder and you're hoping that happens, then you can understand why that 20% spread or whatever the spread happens to be between the two is beneficial, because if you do the math, say there's 10 million in assets being borrowed out and there's 20% spread, that's 200. If it's if it's 10 million being lent out, that's $2 million that the if I did my math right, that the platform is generating in revenue over the course of a year. So just something to keep in mind.
Yep. No, it's good. It's a good call out. And the final one now, keeping in mind USDS is the moving from your bank into the protocol, and that's how it mints USDS.
Using Bridge.
Using Bridge, yep. And then USDC, which is iUSDC. So I've actually seen this. What's this? Why has it got an I? Again, USDC is USDC moved across from Ethereum via Orbit Bridge. So anything that gets transferred from Ethereum via Orbit Bridge has an I on it. That's why we have iUSDC. And if you go into the icon tracker, you'll notice iETH, iDAI, and all these other coins that you can transfer over. However, again, unless there's some reason to use it on icon, what's the point? So we can see that iUSDC clearly has some utility, because not only can you now migrate it across and use it here to supply, earn interest, borrow other coins, you can also, I think any moment now, the pair that Icongrapher was talking about as well will be listed on a pair for BNUSD and iUSDC, so you'll be able to now swap BNUSD to iUSDC and come and earn interest if that's what you desire. Keep in mind though, this particular pool initially, it is a stablecoin pool, so there's no IL. However, if there's not a lot of liquidity, you need to be careful at the start when you're trying to move across, especially if you've got all this BNUSD and you're thinking, well, I might as well swap it to USDC and earn some interest. Well, just make sure that sufficient liquidity is in the pool to be able to handle the trade, so you don't lose out on slippage. So just some things to keep in mind there, but exciting to see overall this stuff is evolving. It's good to see that this pair is come about so quickly. You will get a little bit of a bonus again on the community session. Scott talks about this particular pair and incentivizing it a little via the balance token, which is a win-win, because all of a sudden you got no IL, and you're getting perks of the balance token by just putting your stable coin in there. So, yeah, I'm quite excited about that pool, quite honestly, Iconographer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's the only issue is, yeah, if there's a lot of not a lot of liquidity at the beginning point, then you're gonna you could end up paying $1.10 to purchase a dollar, which is obviously not ideal.
Hmm.
And also, if you're trying to move a whole lot at once, there's also transaction fees within balance itself. They're not major or anything like that, but if you're trying to trade, a larger amount of money, you could end up taking a bit of a haircut there. So between the slippage and between the transaction fee, it's not a clean, total 1-to-1 exchange. But that being said, it's pretty close. And as alluded to, there is very little chance of a permanent loss, because even if there is an imbalance like that slippage, it'll probably pretty quickly get rectified by arbitrage traders. And so it's nice to have that incentive. It's a low risk play to place your stable coins. But the incentives that are likely going to be there in terms of the balance you receive are also going to be low, just because there's not much risk. So nonetheless, it's a nice option for if you've just got some stable coins sitting there doing nothing, like maybe you have some BNUSD that you took out on loan. At the very least, you could stick them in there and earn some balance without much impermanent loss risk, or virtually no impermanent loss risk. But there's never entirely riskless, but relative to everything else, it'll be pretty impossible.
Yeah, and look, once we have equality as well, we won't have that much of an issue, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
there you go. Inside scoop, Iconographer. You got anything for us?
Nothing new to report this time. Things are moving in a nice pace and a nice direction. I'll say that. And so hopefully we'll have some goodies here soon. But for the time being, I'm quiet.
Cool. Okay, well, the last thing, just to make sure, yes, today is the drop for, I guess, when you start getting ohm tokens, and as Iconographer mentioned, you will not notice your APYs reflect this, because the actual pools don't get listed till the 31st of August, so obviously until ohm has a price, that APY wouldn't come into the equation, so
Yeah,
just keep
and
that in mind.
the rewards will start accruing, so it'll start tabulating, but you won't be able to claim the actual token itself until the 31st, and that's when the pools will launch as well. So you'll be able to sit there and see how much ohm you will be earning when that first distribution happens, but you won't be able to claim it for a few days here.
Yeah, and you'll hear this in the community sessions as well. So they cover it off. We cover it off well there, so we'll leave it for that. Okay. I think, is there anything else I can go for we want to touch on with ohm?
No, I think we covered a good amount. I think if people want to hear a bit more in depth, and learn a bit more, definitely listen to that community session when it drops.
Yep. Great. Okay, so next up, what have we got?
So I guess we couldn't talk about ohm without talking about balanced. I think it was last week, maybe the week before that, we discussed the boosted balanced BALN proposal. Essentially, to kind of give a brief summary, it's a mechanism that allows you to stake your balance token over a determined period of time, ranging from a month to 4 years. And the longer you do, the more of a boost you get on the liquidity you're providing, and the rewards you'll earn. So the incentives are towards locking it for as long as possible, just to maximize everything you could potentially earn. And so, again, I would encourage you to read Scott's proposal if you had a really more in-depth perspective on it. But that passed pretty overwhelmingly, well in the 90 percentile. So that's really nice to see. I think he said it'll take about 8 weeks. Hopefully I have that correct, with other features that are in the pipeline to implement. So we'll have to be a little bit patient there, but nonetheless, something nice to see. And of course, with one proposal being passed, another one has been put up. And this one is essentially a proposal to beef up the DAO fund. And so what this will do is it'll shift around a little bit the inflation distribution allocation of the BALN token. It'll take away a bit less from a couple of categories, primarily the one of them being the borrowing, just because it's already free to borrow. Why do we necessarily need to incentivize people to do it, especially when you can do other stuff with that borrowed asset? And a couple other categories as well. I don't know if you have it open in front of you, but I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. And so basically, beefing up the DAO fund allows for more flexibility for the protocol. There's an opportunity that down the road you can decide, oh hey, let's reward, let's pay back from the DAO fund. Let's give it a little extra boost to our current balance holders or the boosted balance holders, and give them an allocation. Or you could say, okay, let's put a temporary boost on this liquidity pool because we think drive some incentives here. So take some of the BALN from the DAO fund, and pump it there. So it creates a lot of flexibility, a lot more opportunity for growth for the platform, makes it more longer term sustainable. And I don't think it really, it doesn't really touch the core pools a whole lot. I guess the ICX, SICX pool a little bit, but I don't think people use that a whole lot anyway. And don't, it's a nice little bonus to get a little bit of BALN for converting your SICX, or I'm sorry, your ICX to SICX. But I don't think people do it just to earn that. So it doesn't, it shaves away a little bit of incentives, but from areas that don't really need it to begin with, and puts it toward kind of growing the platform over the long term. I think it boosts the percentage of BALN that goes into the DAO fund. It goes from 5% to 20%. So kind of a fourfold increase,
Yeah.
and that'll certainly be helpful.
So, and I had that on. I've had it on screen this whole time, Iconographer,
Ah,
and
okay.
it's spot on. So, your biggest change essentially is to the borrowers. So, from the current 20%, it's dropping to 10, and the DAO fund. Now, this is very interesting because it's gone from 5 to 20%. And I'm glad you touched on it. It is so important. Rather have the DAO fund full and in a real good state than kind of dispersing it off as rewards. Because once in the DAO fund, 2 years from now, if it's like ridiculously full and looked after, we can just vote for that to be then distributed to the balance holders, kind of like a retro drop per se. Better to be in that situation than finding ourselves, oh crap, we have certain stuff that something happens, we're required to use the DAO funds, but we just don't have enough money in there. So yeah, I quite like what I'm seeing here with these changes. I am surprised about the balanced stakers. I would have thought at the same time. I mean, is the last proposal, is that I guess, is that a reason why I can graph it? Because the last one is about locking up, in a way, staking your balance for more rewards that um, they're not looking to, because when you reflect on Ohm, 5% of the Ohm distribution is going to Ohm stakers to incentivize staking.
I'm not, well, let's see. It said for new it says 0.0%, and then for current it says 0%.
That's right.
Or yeah.
So
So I'm
it,
not sure. I'm trying to remember what the status of the kind of, like, when you say balance stakers now, it's basically the people who are, staking balance where it's only 3 days to withdraw.
that's
So
right.
I can't remember if the boosted way is going to replace that,
Yeah.
which I think would make sense. In which case it kind of creates a new dynamic, as opposed to just because it kind of makes it a little bit redundant. And so we'll probably get a bit more clarity at some point in the future. But either way, always good to always good to boost the DAO fund, because at the end of the day, if you end up not needing the funds or you end up with a bloated DAO fund, you can always end up ultimately redistributing those funds back to the users who potentially would have earned them in the first place.
Yeah. Agree. No, good stuff. Good overview. Okay, what have we got next?
So as we kind of alluded to, there's a pending BNUSD slash IUSDC pair pool being set. It initially got added, but there was a little bit of a bug there, so they pulled it back. So I think at any time we'll see it pop back up. So by the time you're listening, it might be live. But obviously, that's kind of alludes to what we were talking about with, as far as having a liquidity pool with stable coins and a chance to kind of swap those in and out, which provides, if you have a bunch of BNUSD you're just sitting on and want to, basically give it some exposure on Ohm, you have a chance to do that by converting it to USDC and then loaning it out there. So just provides a nice little flexibility. So hopefully that gets launched very quickly. And also the I don't know if any for those who are in the Discord, the official Balanced Discord channel, there's a nice little activity feed there, so you can really get a sense of how much. I was a bit, I knew a good amount was going on, but to actually stare at that feed and see every transaction just kind of pop up, in front of your eyes, it's pretty cool to see how much activity is really going on the platform at any given moment, essentially. And so they, and I believe Brian from Rhizome built it, and or assisted with building it. But they're now it shows swaps, loan originations, and loan repayments as well. So those weren't in there initially, but those now pop up as activities in the activity feed.
Yep. So it was Brian. He actually built this for the Rhizome DAO. So we've had a lot of that in the
Oh,
DAO
right.
for a
Yep.
while, and now he's
Right.
implemented it. So it's good to see. And yeah, it does get addictive. I've just now intentionally don't go and look at it because next thing you know, it's 9 a.m. Next thing it's 5 p.m. I was like, what happened to my day?
Yeah. Just staring at just staring at activity.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool, dude. That's great. And what else do we have? That's all the balance news, isn't it?
Yeah, for the most part. Again, there was also some balanced tidbits in that community session, so just another plug for that when that drops.
Oh yes, yes. That community session had a lot of everything, which was good. Um, okay, next up we have Icon News. So we've seen a little bit. It's good to see Min tweeting again. He's excited about this documentary for the coins documentary to be out. I think you know more about this, Iconographer. Do you want to?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it's a documentary series appearing on being released on YouTube. Really high production, really good. It's basically anyone, at least the episodes that are out thus far, as far as who I saw was it's kind of the original the original Bitcoiners, Eric Voorhees, Roger Ver, all those guys. So they got some pretty heavy hitters to appear on that, and just kind of kind of explains the origin of Bitcoin and the story and everything like that. But and I assume as time goes on, it'll start delving into other projects, things like that. But nonetheless, Icon is sponsoring it in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know. He just kind of tweeted a little bit of a preview 10-second video, and at the end you see the Icon logo, which is certainly nice. It's a little bit more of a different marketing approach that we've seen in the past. I think a lot of people have clamored for something like this. Usually it's in the form of paying off some YouTube shill or something like that, but I think this is a bit more of uh, a broader, a bit more of a thoughtful approach, in the sense that especially I think the people who are going to be watching this are going to be relatively new entrants into the space, just because I do think it is kind of an introductory documentary. So to have some initial exposure there, certainly good. Of course, one sponsorship isn't going to change the world or anything like that. It's not going to, drive everyone to go look at the Icon ecosystem, but it is a nice little piece of the puzzle, and more stuff like that is certainly encouraging to see in general.
Yeah, look, it's happening. That's the point, right? Iconographer, like we are seeing more of this happening. Sponsorship, reimagine, lots of different things, but this is kind of a real big piece. And you know what? I'd like to see more noise made about this. From this is not a one-time thing. Everyone should be coming out and once this is released and just making a big deal that Icon is sponsoring it. We've got to celebrate everything, push everything, I feel. But yeah, great to see. Next up we have TJ gave an update, and I love these update that CPS has been topped up, so we can see that 140,000 ICX has been sent to the CPS fund, so it's bringing it back up to 237. Now, if you remember when it launched, we were hovering 250. We've had many projects. I think he's put out a tweet since then. Around 300 and something thousand ICX has already been utilized to fund various projects. And even post that, we still have now a total of 237. And it comes back down to this point that building is required. If teams are coming to the party, building new products and require funding, P-reps have to be open and pre-ask questions. If they think they're asking for too much, they need to kind of get in there and ask it beforehand before it gets into the voting stage. But because ultimately that's what the CPS fund is there for, right? It's not there to be, let's look at the number go up. Let's look at it being utilized to build stuff on for Icon. So great to see this happening. And look, last thing is, I always come back to this is without Icon 2.0, right? And I kind of put TJ on the spot in the community sessions. I didn't mean to, full disclosure. I was just excited about the conversations around what else could be built on top of the CPS fund to leverage off what's being held in the treasury from a launchpad perspective, etc. But, one thing he did comment is with Icon 2.0, we probably see the fund fill up quite quickly, and then essentially post 1 million, all that extra ICX will keep getting burnt unless the fund is being utilized. So right now we're just seeing month by month top ups of 140,000 ICX. This is based on the foundation nodes rewards. Now imagine the entire network's inflation being driven rather than just one node's reward. So I think it really helps put it into perspective, and I'm really excited about when the Icon 2.0, some of the proposals. So in the last few updates, they have hinted very soon we should start seeing some of these proposal changes when Icon 2.0 goes live. Obviously, these changes need to get voted in. They're not just going to be pushed on to everyone. It is decentralized chain after all, but it's a big one, and it will have a big impact. So I'm really hoping once Icon 2.0 rolls out and things like that, we see more PREPs registered to have a say of where funding should be allocated, and two, we see people kind of back off this, oh, you want this much to build this, when technically it's really they're not asking for a lot. It's just more that we keep looking at that number and worrying that the funds are dwindling. But if we see daily top-ups happening, it may create that ease from a mindset perspective. But yeah, Icongrapher, sorry I ranted. I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. So it'll be interesting. I think even when if BTP is as successful as we hope it is, and even just watching Ohm and Bounce and how much just those two, now that they're both open, how much money is potentially going to be moving around there. When you open that all to the to the whole crypto world, or a good chunk of the crypto world, hopefully a good amount of assets start flowing between that thing, to where there's a good amount of fees being paid every day, and those fees be at the auction. So even if it's at 1 million and then there's a project for 50K ICX that gets rewarded, within a day or two, it's already topped back up over 1 million or something like that would be pretty awesome. So I don't know how long it'll take to get to that point, but even then it'll be, I think those times where it's below 1 million and it starts to look like it's quote unquote going down, by the time that information gets processed, it'll be topped up or close to topped up pretty soon. So
yeah, look, it's exciting.
Go ahead.
What else we got?
I was gonna say we got this. I can't remember if this is this week or last week, but I don't think we talked about it yet. But basically, Icon Foundation made a strategic investment in Bit2Me, which is a leading blockchain platform in Europe. Obviously, I'm not in Europe, so I haven't had direct exposure to it or anything like that. So I can't speak entirely on kind of all the little nuances of it. But nonetheless, it does sound like it's kind of a growing, emerging platform out there. And so to have exposure to a growing market, and one that I believe, I can't remember if it's Icon or someone else pointed out that, Icon's market in Europe isn't quite as strong as it is in other places. I think in America it's got a pretty good following, as well as in Asia, but Europe not so much. And so to kind of get exposure there, but also it's one of those kind of a very strategic, it's marketing to a certain extent, but it's also getting more exposure. And so again, it reminds me of kind of what we talked about as far as the YouTube advertisement, where it's not going to make an immediate difference, but it's one of those things where as they do more and more of this, start to you'll look up and all of a sudden you see it everywhere. It kind of reminds me of FTX, where I hadn't really heard of FTX, the exchange, and then all of a sudden I look up and it's like literally everywhere, including on NBA stadiums and umpires at baseball games and other things like that. So I don't think we're going to be that dramatic, because FTX loves to throw around money on that sort of stuff, which makes sense for their business model. But nonetheless, it's one of those things where it's kind of a slow burn, but all of a sudden you wake up and you can't be hanging out in the crypto community for more than a few minutes without seeing some sort of icon branding or whatever it might be. And again, this takes time, but you can see they're taking steps kind of in that direction to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, look, it's great to see more of this. I agree. Look, I've always said I've never been a fan of shilling on YouTube with these people. People have very passionate views about such things. I just don't get it. I get it impacts number go up, but overall credibility, I start to draw a line. It's like, what is better? Personally, I see things like this is great. Strategic investments, and we can see a few of these have played out in the last 3 months, especially the market making news as well. So hopefully this trend continues. It's good to see that they're looking at, well, where haven't we got any saturation, and what can we do to get more awareness out there. So yes, agree. This was a good one. Okay. What else have we got? Okay, so I think that's icon news. Now we roll into the NFT section.
Yeah, we've there's enough going on where it warrants its own little category here. And so one of the Winible, which is I think kind of one of the initial CPS proposals, one of the initial kind of NFT projects to announce itself on Icon. They concluded their pre-sale. I think they sold 200 bottles, if I recall correctly. And the price was around, I think it was like 410 ICX, something like that. And people had to, you would pay, but you wouldn't necessarily know which edition you were kind of getting. And everyone got their editions. I think most of them, there's only a few rare ones, which is what the term rare means. And then the more common there were, the more there are. So a lot of people ended up with just kind of the original, kind of the lower tier, I guess you could say. But there were some few who got lucky ones, like the diamond edition and things like that. So they're already up on there's a few people trying to resell up on Craft. So if you missed the pre-sale and want to try to get one on the open market, feel free to do so. They're ranging in price from 410 to I think I saw, and this is in terms of how they're listed. So just because it's listed doesn't mean it's necessarily worth that much, but nonetheless 410 to I think 1500, something like that, in that kind of range. So we'll see. It just started on the secondary market, so we'll see how it plays out. But obviously this one's unique because it's an NFT, but the NFT entitles you to an actual bottle of wine. And you don't have to worry about the custody and everything like that. The winery holds it, maintains it, cares for it. So you can sit on that NFT for 10 years and then decide to sell it. And when you eventually do want that wine, the NFT gets burned, but you get your bottle of wine. So kind of a unique approach. Nice to see it play out, and I'm looking forward to kind of watching that market, how it works, and just kind of seeing as a use case for other future kind of similar NFT correlated with real world assets situations.
Yeah, look, I think this is what I loved about this. I just loved there was a real world aspect to it where, yes, the NFT is in the virtual sense, but you can then burn it and claim the bottle if you just feel like drinking the wine. I must say, I have woken up, we've had community sessions, we had this. I haven't had a chance to look at what my bottle was. I actually took part in this and bought a bottle. Not that I'm a big wino or anything. I just loved it, the concept of it. So I wanted to support it. And yeah, I can't wait to see. I hope I got one of the.
Maybe I'm talking to a diamond holder at this very moment.
That's right. Not knowing is bliss, so I won't check it, and I'll just ride this cred.
it's Schrodinger's wine until it's both a diamond and not a diamond until you look at it.
Exactly. Okay, that's great. Next up we have Project Nebula dropped a bit of a update. So we know that crafting is going to be part of the game, and you probably noticed, especially if you had Gen 0 planets and claimed the loot boxes, mystery boxes, you got a whole lot of stuff in your inventory, and it says it's for crafting. So they've just dropped a little bit of hint, part of their lore, but very excited about this. Essentially, crafting will enable you to create new NFTs in the game. So that's kind of cool, and can't wait for the next update. One thing I will call out while we're on the Project Nebula train recently. If you didn't know, there was a change they implemented in the game. So, the game is timed, cooldowns, etc. One of the cooldowns they've implemented, it used to be if you claimed a planet, there was a 24-hour cooldown period where you couldn't claim if you found another planet. This has now been extended out to 3 days. So just if you're wondering, if you're flying around and you're not part of the Discords or any of the other chats and you're trying to claim a planet and wondering what's going on, it's not a glitch. It's a change they've made, probably to just streamline the gaming experience so that, I guess people can't go around hoarding planets, and giving a chance for all the players out there to experience every aspect of the game. I assume that. I haven't spoken to the team directly, but I can confirm it is a 3-day cooldown. There you go.
Yeah, it's nice to see. It's already nice to see them. Already building in new features, new changes. I think the crafting could be pretty fun. So nice to they've only been they launched almost exactly a month ago, and they're already working on rolling out new feature sets and things like that. So it'll be fun to watch that ecosystem evolve as well.
Yep, agree. Great. I think that's about it from my end. Iconographer, have we left anything out?
No, I think that's pretty much all the big news and everything like that. I think it'll be exciting to watch Ohm over the next week here, especially with the rewards get distributed and new pools get added and things like that. Just in terms of which way people are going with assets. There were already a good chunk of strategies on just when balanced was there, and now there's just going to be I don't want to say infinite, but certainly the number of strategies are going to be very diverse. So I think you'll see more discussions based around that, and so that'll be fun to watch within the community as well.
Yep, agree. Look, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share this around. One thing I didn't, I am going to tweet about it, but I came to be aware of in the Rhizome DAO recently, a dev joined and wanted to help out. It got talking. He has quite a lot of experience in the skill sets any team would want from a dev. And it turns out he made mention that he actually was listening to Iron Icon and heard us always saying things, what's happening in the Icon ecosystem, everything that's being built, and always encourage if they're devs and stuff to, join the building, and that's what prompted him to get involved. So, that was recently, Iconograph, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's brilliant, because we always try and say and encourage and do. It's good that even if we pulled one dev, that's good in my book. So we're making a difference. So a nice little pick-me-up, and great to see that the community is responding to the podcast and everything we're bringing to them.
If you're listening and you have a friend who's a developer, make sure you just send them the podcast.
That's right.
We'll have 500 developers in no time.
As always, look, everyone, it's not financial advice. We're just sharing our views and insights. And thank you again to Donnie, who collates everything for Ion Icon so that we can give you the latest and greatest, but not financial advice. Make sure you do your own research, and your investments are your decisions. As always, we love bringing you this stuff. Please make sure you like, follow, share, and until next time, take care, everyone.
See ya.